Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 8.
So you said you lived in Sheen, is that right?
Yes, and ideally we'd like to see something close by.
OK, in that case I can suggest New Malden Theatre, only a 5-minute walk from Sheen.
Perfect. What's on there at the moment?
Well, there's a matinee show and an evening show. The matinee show is called Lions and Penguins, and the evening show is the renowned John Millington play Warhorse Breakfast.
Oh yes, I think I've heard of that one. Might not be best for the kids though. I'll stick with Lions and Penguins, please.
Great. Now, did you say there were 3 of you?
Yes, right.
Oh, you're in luck. There are only 3 seats left in the Royal Circle and they're all together.
Nice, but won't that be expensive?
Not at all. We have a special offer running.
Oh, I'll take them then.
So that's the Royal Circle, row 1, B, C and D.
Let me just make a note of that. Got it.
Now, the matinee performance starts at 2 p.m. and you should be seated about 15 minutes before the curtains open. The interval will be at 3 for 15 minutes and the play will finish at 4:15.
OK, I've made a note of that. Now, tell me more about this special offer, please.
Well, tickets are £45.
Oh, that's good, isn't it?
Per person.
Oh.
But we're running a deal this week where if you buy 2, you get another at no cost.
Buy 2, get 1 free.
Right, and that means you'll be charged £90 in total.
That's not so bad. Well, thank you very much for your help.
Just a moment, before you go, please. I'm obliged to read you out the terms of purchase.
Very well.
OK. There is a cancellation fee, which only applies if you cancel within 10 days of the performance, and that's £30.
So long as I cancel more than 10 days beforehand, I won't get charged?
Right, and just to let you know, the dates are not flexible. If you want to change when you go to see the performance, you have to cancel and start again.
OK.
And one last thing, if you want to change your seats, there's a £10 charge per person, or per seat if you like.
Yeah, got it.
But there's also the matter of payment.
Before listening to the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 9 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 9 to 10.
Oh, of course, sorry. I completely forgot. Will you accept a cheque?
Yes, that'd be absolutely fine. You can make it out to Star Theatre Bookings. That's Star, S-T-A-R-R, Theatre Bookings. It's my surname, not the word, so don't forget 2 R's.
OK, 2 hours.
And just write the booking reference on the cheque to help me match the payment to your entry on our system.
Of course.
It's BUKTHTR14582. That's BUKTHTR14582.
Great. Thanks ever so much.
You're welcome. Now, I won't keep you any longer. You seem in an awful hurry.
Yes, sorry about that. I am. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's the end of section 1. You have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 2. Section 2. You will hear a tour guide talking to her tour group. First, you will have time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Well, we certainly have a busy day ahead of us, so let's get started, shall we? You'll find a map of the museum with the itinerary I've just handed out. The museum's our first port of call, so let's have a look at the map now. The door on the right of the entrance hall leads into the gift shop and ticket centre. Once we pick up our entrance tickets, I'd ask everyone to deposit their bags and coats in the cloakroom, which is located towards the back of the gift shop and ticket centre. If you want to pick up an information leaflet, you can approach the information desk situated along the right-hand side. Now, once you come back into the entrance hall, the door on the opposite side to the gift shop leads into the art gallery. There is a special exhibition on there at the moment which is not to be missed. If you continue on up the entrance hallway, that leads into the main exhibition centre. At the back left-hand side, there are some toilets. Beside the toilets, you'll find the 3D theatre. I strongly recommend that you make time for the 30-minute presentation in the theatre. It is well worth a viewing. Running along the right-hand side of the main exhibition centre is the Modern Art Studio. Here, not only can you view some of the most famous works of the 20th century, but you can also sit in on a workshop run by a local artist. So, that's the Art Museum.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
Next on the itinerary is the aquarium. Depending on how long we spend at the museum, we might have to give this one a miss. It's not what I'd call a highlight of the day, but it would be a shame if we didn't get to see it, as it's en route to the Solheim Country Club, where we're booked in for lunch at 1 o'clock. Originally, we had planned to stop off at the Milltown Winery afterwards, but we've had to scrap that plan. Otherwise, we'd never get to the zoological gardens before closing time. We have pre-booked the gardens and must be there by 2:30, so no dilly-dallying please after lunch. Straight back onto the bus. The gardens close at 3:30, so we've an hour there, which should give us ample time to look around. Time allowing, we'll stop off at the famous Stout Brewery after that, if traffic isn't too heavy, and we're in Lincoln before 5. If not, we'll head straight for the National Concert Hall, where you're in for a real treat of an evening, with a performance from the world-renowned cellist, Andrei Borovsky. We have to be in our seats by 6:30 sharp. After that, it's back to the hotel for the night, where a buffet meal will be waiting for us at 8:30, or whenever we get back.
That is the end of section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to Section 3. Section 3. You will hear a discussion between 3 students and their lecturer. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
That's right. I started out working as a researcher in Kelheim Laboratories, though it's a long time ago now.
What was it like then? Starting out, I mean. That'll be us next year.
It largely depends on your work environment, really. My team in the biophysics department were not very understanding of how it feels to be a new guy, and were really quite hard on me. From day one, they expected me to pull my weight, and they reprimanded me for any mistakes I made. There was no time for me to find my feet and get comfortable.
That sounds awful.
Well, it was to begin with, and it certainly took a long time for me to gain their respect. But once I had done, the work environment became far more pleasant, and indeed we ended up making a great team.
How long did you stay there?
6 years.
You did a fair stint then?
Yes, well, you see, I was offered a promotion in my 5th year to assistant manager. Needless to say, I jumped at the chance. I'd got to know the manager really well during my time there, though, and I knew, based on how quick he was to point out what you were doing wrong all the time, that it would be a challenge to have to work closely with him. But I've never been one not to accept a challenge.
So how did you and he get on?
Well, it didn't matter, as he was only there another 6 months. He took early retirement on account of a heart condition, and before you knew it, there I was, managing the entire operation.
Was that difficult for you?
Not at all. I was very fortunate to then be managing the same team as I had been part of for so long. They were at ease with me and the way I did things, so the department functioned really well for a time.
Only for a time?
Yes, until I got into a dispute with the directors. You see, being new to management, I'd never dealt with directors or the like before, and their expectations were just not very practical. They had their head in the clouds, if you ask me. Anyway, they expected me to get instant results in our lab work. Needless to say, I wasn't prepared to rush the delicate experiments we were conducting along too quickly. I stood my ground and made it clear that I had no wish to pressure my team, and that, in my eyes, they could have as much time as they liked to find out what they were looking for. This didn't go down too well with the directors, and they got rid of me.
You mean you were sacked?
In a manner of speaking. Well, they told me to leave of my own accord or I would be removed. I left.
And is that when you started to lecture?
Yes, and I've been doing it ever since. When I first arrived, Dr. Michael Stout was still a member of staff here.
You mean the programme director?
Well, he wasn't back then. I have Michael to thank for showing me the ropes. He was very considerate of the new faculty members and assisted me no end. And now, here I am, 20 years a lecturer. How time flies.
Well, sir, we're very glad to have you as ours, that's for sure.
Yeah, you make all the stuff sound so interesting, unlike some of them.
Couldn't agree more. Honestly, I almost fall asleep in the other classes.
Now, come on. I'm neither that good, nor are your other lecturers that bad.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
Right, now let's get down to business. We didn't meet for an idle chat. Tell me, John, how's the project coming along?
Well, we haven't been able to isolate the mutant gene yet, so to be honest, I'd say it's slow progress.
But you have at least identified the mutant gene, correct?
Yeah, but until we isolate it, testing cannot commence, so the whole project is on hold at the moment.
I think you're being a little too hard on yourselves. After all, correct me if I'm wrong, but did we not say a time frame of maybe 6 months just to identify the culprit?
Yes, but having done that so quickly in the space of a week, it's frustrating to have to wait now.
Patience is a skill you have yet to acquire, John.
I guess.
We have managed to establish that the gene mutation bypasses every other generation.
Intriguing. So the infection is not passed directly from parent to child?
No. If the parent is infected, the child will be a silent carrier who will go on to infect any children he or she has.
That's an important discovery.
Yes, and we've also found a way to switch off the mutant gene, we think.
Go on.
One of the volunteers we have been studying was a carrier 6 months ago, but the mutation is no longer in his DNA. Having studied his health records, it seems that he caught a strain of bird flu on a trip to Malaysia. He had a near-death experience, but has since made a full recovery.
Do you suspect the bird flu virus somehow has a curative effect?
We don't think it was the virus, but the accompanying fever. His body temperature was raised to 105. We have a hypothesis that the mutant gene couldn't cope with such an excessive internal body temperature.
Excellent work. So, by the sounds of it, a cure might not be too far away?
If we can isolate the gene, then we can begin further research to confirm our hypothesis.
Now I understand why you're so eager.
That's the end of section 3. You have half a minute to check your answers.
Section 4. You will hear a tutor giving some business students instructions about a finance project.
First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 36. Now listen and answer questions 31 to 36.
OK, can you quieten down, please? Now, today I'm going to talk to you about your assignment. We've been studying the effects of the exchange rate, so I'm going to give you a project to do on this. Right, can you make some notes while I'm talking? The first thing that I'd like you to do in order to prepare this is to select where you're interested in. I mean, which country, and therefore which currency you're going to be operating in. OK, now the purpose of the project is to make money, and I'm hoping some of you will make a significant amount. So, I want you to suppose that you have £100 that you will have to invest purely in the rises and falls of the exchange system. In other words, you'll be trying to predict rates. This is a project that you'll be doing together, but before you work together, you'll have to go off and research what you need to know about the economy of that country and how well it's doing or is expected to do in the near future. You could all make up a little information sheet with your notes on, clearly legible, because then I want you to get together, we can do that next week, and to go round and read about each other's countries. When you see how well or badly each country is doing, I want you to decide what your exchange rate is going to be against all the other currencies. After that is all sorted, what you're going to do is go round the other students and attempt to sell your money to the others. Remember, this will depend on the success of your country's economy and the rate you fixed for your currency. Now, you're not allowed to just swap currencies with each other, but you may wish to buy from the other countries. But you must do a proper transaction. All the way through this, you must keep your accounts properly for each transaction. I'll give you 1 week to do this, and then we will set a time for the deals to finish, a bit like the stock exchange. And at that point, I will ask you to calculate how much you have made. Is that clear?
Before the talk continues, you have some time to look at questions 37 to 40. Now listen and answer questions 37 to 40.
Okay, now before you begin that, there are a few things I want you to read up on to prepare. You need to look at the economies of the UK's main trading partners. I don't mean all of them, because that would be over 80, but just the 29 principal ones. There are summaries in the last 3 books on the book list I've given you. And so that you can practice applying the criteria on assessment I gave you, I'd then like you to focus just on one sector across all the countries. The most common one across every country is farming. But as much agricultural produce is for domestic consumption, I'd like you to look at manufacturing. Then, I would like you to do a detailed investigation of one particular aspect. I was going to give you a choice, but I think as we've just started the course, it's better if we all look at the same thing, and then we can discuss it in the seminars. So the thing I'd like you all to look at is fluctuations in import prices. Now, you need to do all that before you start the project, as it will help you assess the economies of the countries you'll be representing in the project. Don't worry, you've got plenty of time. Exam week is December the 8th. Then it's the holidays until January the 6th, so I don't need the project in till February the 5th. Is that okay?